Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Adventure Box Podcast. That's right, today we're going to be talking about the colonies that were controlled by Spain and by the Portuguese. Now, I know last week we talked about the British. The only reason why we put that in the beginning is because we wanted to end with the French as we go into the French and Indian War. But for this, now we're going to get into those that found the area first. And that was the Spanish and the Portuguese. These are like the evil stepsisters. Not evil. I should say evil. They're like sisters that butt heads all the time. So I can't say there's any Cinderella in this story if I was going to use the evil sisters. And they're not evil per the things that they were thinking. But at the same time, they were, again, sisters that always like to fight, or brothers that always like to fight. Ooh, actually, brothers that like to wrestle. That was probably the best way of doing it. And a father had to come in and teach them a thing or two and separate them. And we're going to be talking about that today. Before we do that, though, I want to go into a little bit of Historical Conquest. It's our sponsor company. They're the ones that are producing, helping us produce this podcast. And Historical Conquest is the game where you can actually play with history, just having fun with it, and actually learn something on the side. So it's not a educational game in that sense that it's like all education, you're going to learn. It's this is going to have fun, and there's going to be intertwined into that game. There's going to be a whole lot of knowledge, and you'll learn every time you play. But it's fun because we want you to play over and over and over again. Every time the game is going to be different. And because of that, every time you're going to learn a little bit something new from history. And this is the same thing when it comes to the podcast, the Adventure Box podcast. Every time you tune in, there's going to be something different. Now, we also say that we have our YouTube channel as well. But for those that are on the go, those that don't have the time, please join us on our podcast. Subscribe, like us. It's what we need in order to keep this going. Now, in the podcast, we're going to be telling you some things that you won't actually see on YouTube. That will be later on. As of right now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of what was happening at the very beginning when Spain and Portugal came to the New World. But remember, last month, we talked about the Age of Exploration. So we're going to bypass Columbus. We're going to bypass Cortez and all those others, Pizarro. We're going to get into Juan Pon de Leon, just because we're going to be talking about Florida. But we're going to basically establish this as basically the Caribbean is already established and taken over. But let's start off with that. So first off, let's go to the map. We love showing you the map. And in my head, every time I say, let's go to the map, it makes me think of backpack. Yes, I know. Dora the Explorer, a little bit older. Those that are a little bit older might know Dora the Explorer. Okay, so first off, we're going to go to Spain. Why Spain? Because Spain produced Columbus, or at least financed Columbus to come to the Americas. So in here you have the United States on the left side and Europe and Africa on the east side. But let's zoom in. So this is Spain, a little country, actually it's quite a large country, on the side of what we call the Iberian Peninsula. It's basically a jotting out of land that has three sides of water. That's what a peninsula is. So it's this land that comes out, much like Florida. It's a peninsula. It's a big peninsula. It's a huge peninsula. But it's still a peninsula all the same. So this is considered the Iberian Peninsula. The connection, or at least it's not actually connected by land, but is close enough to actually say that they're connected, is between Spain and Northern Africa through the Straits of Gibraltar, basically where ships in the Mediterranean can sail out into the Atlantic Ocean. What's great about this is because of these two countries, Portugal and Spain, that the New World will be colonized. And yes, a lot of people like to say, oh, it's evil that they had colonized America. But here's the thing. You live in a free country of America. If it wasn't for them doing that, you would actually be depending on where your family's from, I'd be up in England. Actually, I was Cherokee too, so I would be two different places. I was not from Africa. Those that are African Americans, you'd be still in Africa if we had not ever explored this area. So for those that say it's evil, it's horrible what was happening, back then it was a matter of life. And it's how they did things. And yes, as I said, we understand what they're going through through their eyes to be able to understand and create empathy, but we also go through with our eyes later on to see that this is not something I want to repeat. We'll never repeat slavery because of how wicked it was. At the same time, we still have slavery in the world. So I wish we all learned that lesson. Anyways, so let's go with Spain. So Spain's going to be number one. We're going to do that one first. Okay, so what happened with Spain in order to come over and develop this new world? Of course, we said Christopher Columbus was financed by Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Actually, it was mostly Queen Isabella. She was over Castile, and Ferdinand was actually over Aragon. So two different nations inside Spain itself. So this was a Catholic monarchy that ruled this nation. And they sent over Christopher Columbus in 1492. Well, when Columbus came back and the word got out, there's a new world. Or at least, no, sorry. It was not a new world to everyone else. At this point, until Christopher Columbus dies, and until Amerigo Vespucci gets his map made by someone in Germany, at this point, it is Asia. This is what they know it as. They're not there trying to conquer Asia. They're there to find new things and bring it back to Europe. So Columbus goes over, tries to set up a settlement so he can actually start this trade, and goes back to Spain. What happens at that time? The information goes out, and this is when Portugal decides, hey, we want a part of this. We don't want Spain to take over and do everything all on their own. No, we want part of this. So we're going to send out people of our own. Well, here's the thing. You had Spain saying, hey, we own this land. And then we had Portugal saying, hey, we want part of this land. What's going to happen? The two sisters or two brothers are going to wrestle over who gets what. So someone very important, the Pope at the time, again, they're both Catholic monarchs, came up with the Treaty of Tordesillas. Now, Tordesillas was basically where they would cut, let's see, I'm going to zoom out of this. They would cut exploration in half. The Portuguese were able to explore down the African coast, the west coast of Africa, and over into the Indian Ocean, near India and Asia and Indonesia and those kind of areas. So they were happy. That's what they wanted. At the same time, the land was split actually right down the middle of South America. So that actually gave the Portuguese the ability to say, hey, we're in this area. There is more land in here. We want a part of it, so we're going to have it. Well, let's go to what Spain did first. Okay, so after the Treaty of Tordesillas is set up, let me show you a picture, our first picture. Here we go. This is what the trade routes became for Spain. They were all over the Caribbean. And again, we're not going to be focusing on the Caribbean today because we have so much to go over. But this is just to give you a rundown. Now, if you see these different symbols, so sugar is S, C is coffee, T is tobacco. So you have sugar, coffee, tobacco, all in Cuba. In Santo Domingo, you have sugar and coffee. In this end of that area, you have just tobacco. Puerto Rico, tobacco. All the way down the islands of the Caribbean. Look at this. Sugar, 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 sugar. Everything was sugar. At the same time, if you look down here at this map, Spain had everything that was in brown. The British had everything that was in, it's like a violet. Jamaica was British. The Dutch actually had these smaller islands because they needed sugar. They liked sugar, so they planted sugar there. But you also have the Danish, and the French as well. The French had Santo Domingo. Um, sorry, uh, uh, Dominican Republic. Yes, that's the area of the Dominican Republic. Um, and actually also Haiti. Where does Haiti come in there? Let's double check our facts. Okay, you know I do this often because I want to make sure that our facts are right. Sorry, yeah, Haiti's on the left, Dominican Republic is on the right. So going back to that picture, this part is owned by France. Oh, yeah, that's right, because Haiti is French speaking, and also you have this Dominican Republic, which is was friends with us. We actually own Puerto Rico as the United States at this point. No, sorry, not at this point in history, right now, currently. Okay, so let's go on to the next. We're going to go into Florida. So what happens? There is a man by the name of Ponce de Leon, Juan Ponce de Leon. Now he's actually let's go a little bit back before we get to Juan Ponce de Leon. Okay, so you have Vasco Nunes de Balboa, who becomes the first European to travel around the Pacific Ocean, into the Pacific Ocean. You have Hernan Cortez takes over the Aztecs. Ferdinand Magellan circumnavigates the globe. So Vasco Nunez de Balboa goes around into the Pacific Ocean, but then he goes back and such. But also, oh no, and he didn't go around the point of South America. He actually went through around where the Panama Canal was. He traveled by land to see the Pacific Ocean. He's the first to do that. Then you have the Council of India. That's going to go more into establishing the administration of the Spanish colonies in the New World. You also have Francisco Pizarro. After the Aztecs were taken over, that became New Spain, or the capital of New Spain. And Pizarro went down into Peru and took over the Incas. After that point, you have others that try to take over the Mayas. All Spanish. This is all Spanish and what's going on there. Okay, so now let's go into a little bit of Florida. Taking down some of my notes. Going to Florida. Actually, here we go. We have... Nope, too far down in my notes. Yeah, so you have... Oh, there we go. So we have Juan Ponce de Leon, who goes over to Florida. Let me give you a better picture of Florida. There's a better picture of Florida, the whole thing. He goes up here and finds an area that, on his second voyage, he goes and finds St. Augustine. And actually, let me get the actual dates for you for this time. So Juan Ponce de Leon comes over in 1513 and discovers what he calls La Florida, meaning land of flowers. There you go, something you didn't know before. So he comes over, finds the land of flowers. And so then he explores parts of the coast and basically does not actually establish any settlements at this time. This is just his first voyage. So he finds the land of flowers. But he doesn't find the Fountain of Youth, which supposedly was on here. Now, that wasn't his main reason. He wanted to explore. That was what he wanted to do. Didn't matter if it had the Fountain of Youth. He wanted to find a new land. He wanted to become famous like Cortez and all those others. Okay, so Juan Ponce de Leon comes back in 1521. And this is where actually he starts up Fort Myers. The area that's basically Fort Myers. Now, that's basically the end of him. Actually, he gets into a battle with some of the Native American tribes and goes home and dies. So the next person is in 1528. So he goes into the Tampa Bay area, which is on the side of Florida, on the west side of Florida. And he goes into a land that's actually controlled by the Tocobaga. The Tocobaga. Yep. The Tocobaga tribe is in the Tampa area. And so there is some not so good years between them. Well, as you see, the Seminoles are actually right below him. So he actually has to make friends with both groups. And this is hard to do. So he finds the Tampa Bay and he has a goal of finding great wealth and establishing Spanish control. Now, it takes him about 4 years. De Soto, so Hernan de Soto, and his men explore much of the southeast side of the United States. So they do not actually establish any settlements in Florida. They actually continue around and go around to the southern states. Actually, here's an interesting thing. So there is very little documentation, if any. But one of the possibilities was back then that he was actually sent to find Cortez and stop him before taking over the Aztecs. Okay, so taking over the Aztecs, you have you have Hernan Cortez, 1519 to 1521. So he was not actually able to stop them. And again, it was a rumor at that time if that's what he was supposed to be doing. Okay, so he explores the southwest area. His expedition ultimately was a failure to find any riches, and De Soto died in 1542. Okay, now going a little bit further. So no settlements have been settled in this area. Well, now we have Tristan de la Luna. Tristan de Luna comes in, and he's sent by the Spanish. This is 1559, so quite a time after, 40 years after Juan Pon de Leon. And he explores the northwestern part of Florida. Now, that's not actually in the picture here, so let's go to the next one. And he finds the Pensacola area. So Pensacola actually becomes a colony. So his colony is devastated by what? Not by a Native American tribe, by a hurricane shortly after he arrives, destroying his ships, supplies, and it was basically abandoned in 2 years. Okay, another failed attempt to take over southern North America, southern United States area. So fast forward again 3 more years, the French threaten the Spanish area. So what happens is in 1562, French Huguenots. Now these are religious people that are persecuted in France, and they're basically kicked out. They leave on their own, but they're forced out because they're being persecuted so much. And it explored. The explorer was Jean Beignot. I hope I said that right. Beignot. Ribault. Ribault. Okay. And so they establish Fort Caroline on the St. John River. Now, you can't see because it's not actually marked in here because these are the Spanish expeditions. But the Spain finds out. They see the French there and they find that there's a threat. So this is when they start really putting pressure into setting up an establishment, a settlement there. So this is 1565. So September 8th, 1565. What happens? Pedro Menendez de Aviles establishes a settlement that is St. Augustine. This is basically to force the Huguenots north if they're to stay in the area, or to push them out. Keep all the other European settlers out of this area, because they basically claimed Florida for them, even though there was no settlement at this point. Fort Augustine was actually the first permanent settlement that actually still resides today. So Menendez leads an attack against Fort Caroline and kills most of the French colonists and secures Spanish control over the region. Ouch. Again, it wasn't just between the Spanish and the Portuguese and the European countries against the Native Americans. It was all against themselves too. This was a time when all they knew about was war and setting up boundaries of areas. Now, as the United States, we have boundaries and we try to protect them, or we should be trying to protect them for our economic and everything else reasons. We do allow immigrants to come in if they have legitimate concerns and reasons, or they come through a legal way for being able to bring things into the United States, but not bring in, to do good things for the United States. So we're basically trying to bring in those that are going to be a benefit to the country and not a burden to the country. Though we do let in refugees in times of struggle. And some of the refugees are actually supposed to go home afterwards, and most of them just stay around. Okay, so that's where St. Augustine comes in. Then you have the Castillo de San Marcos is constructed in Augustine to protect, this is the fort, and I'm going to show you that in just a second, to protect Florida, or the area, against pirates and rival European powers. So they put a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort into this. Oh, I'm going to go back to that. This is Castillo de San Marco. This is a fort that they make basically almost completely surrounded by water, a moat. Yes, it was European times, and it was near the medieval times. It was a little later. Again, this is Renaissance time, but these are the structures that they produce. And you might see that's all walls and such, but if you can look in carefully, there is in the center windows and everything. So it's a courtyard, and inside there's basically the barracks and everywhere else to be able to live. And you can see it a little bit in this image, all of the different structures. Each of these units have doors and are separate from the others. Some of them have doors leading into other units, but so forth. So this was actually supposed to take care of those in St. Augustine and to attack anyone that's trying to attack that area. And the ships would actually be in the waters near it. The Spanish ships would be kept there. So this also helped in times of stuff like hurricanes and such. Because as you know, Florida gets a lot of hurricanes and such. Okay, so I'm spending a little bit too much time on this. Let's keep moving forward. Okay, so that's Spain, Florida. Each unit has a portion of this, so you're going to get a lot from Florida. So let's keep going. So we talked about the Caribbean. We talked about Florida. That is for this area. Now let's go into the other places that the Spanish took over. So you have the Spanish explorers that basically explored every inch of the Gulf of Spain. And you have Cortez, who came over to Mexico, or what would become Mexico, traveled inland into the middle to Lake Texcoco and attacked the city there, Tenochtitlan, which was the capital of the Aztecs. As soon as that was taken over, they established basically Mexico City, which was actually called New Spain. This all was called New Spain. Everything in orange was New Spain. And because of New Spain, they actually established that as the capital of it. And from there, they traveled north. So the first things that they traveled through is the southwest. So they had to come up through Mexico and come through all these different tribes that were up here. So some of the first explorers came up and traveled, and you can read more about it. Just don't have time today. So, and it's all in your curriculum. So they come up through here to explore Texas. Now they came through Texas originally by land or by sea, and then later on, after Mexico, New Spain was set up, or at least the Aztecs were taken over, then they moved north to travel through Texas. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so this is a picture of everything, all the different travels that were happening to explore Texas. So let's see. The first one, you can't see it in here. Why can't? Oh, it's zoomed in too much. Is Pineda. So Pineda came. Oh, actually, sorry. It was Pineda that was the one that was rumored that he was supposed to stop Cortez, because Cortez went over in 1519 as well and went after the Aztecs. And the people that were controlling or managing Pineda, according to the rumor, told him to go over and stop him. So that's why he traveled up this coast and down through Mexico, and then supposedly was captured by Cortez and sent packing. So he did not have the strength that he needed. Now, again, that's rumor. There is not much history about it. There's just what is noted. Okay, so that's Pineda. Then you have Cabeza de Vaca and Estevanico. Now, Estevanico, you're going to learn about in the, I think we have a section of it on Estevanico. Estevanico was actually a Moor, so he came from Africa, was employed by Spain, and that was not a controversial thing at the time. If you remember, those that traveled with Columbus, the navigator, one navigator, two navigators, brothers, were actually from Mexico or from Africa as well, and they were highly treated. They were not just a person that they wanted to enslave. They were very much needed. Estevanico was considered a slave, so he comes over, and as a navigator for the conquistadors in Texas, he actually becomes friends with them and is thought very highly, so no longer slave. But during his travels, he actually dies as well. So this one would be this dark line right here. And as they're searching through, Estevanico, as far as I remember, did not make it home. Okay. Then you have Coronado. Now, Coronado was actually trying to find the 7 cities of gold and traveled as far as Oklahoma. Sorry, you can see right here. He's in gold. There you go, Coronado. Cities of Coronado, or you might know some of the tales of it. So he traveled up as far as Oklahoma, right here, up into, see, I'm in Missouri right here. This is Kansas. So explorers think they had found Quivira, so one of the cities of gold. Explorers think they found Cibola. So again, they're trying to find cities of gold. They never actually find cities of gold. So Coronado actually goes home as a failure from his original task. Then you have now I don't know this one actually. I have not done the history on this. Moscoso. Moscoso, as you can see from here. Oh, actually, I think this is Moscoso. Traveling through Texas and then comes back down north. Because as we know from Estevanico, they never actually make it out. So this is where this would have been Estevanico. And then they get stuck there. Okay. And so on and so forth. There's many others. Now, these were different missions that were set up. These were Spanish Catholic missions that were set up to help convert the Native Americans, to create a relationship with them. Sometimes there was found abuse, but they were not actually there to abuse or to enslave or do any of those things. They were there to actually work among those people in these missions. So this is their travels in the Southwest. Okay, but that's all I'm going to say. There's more in the curriculum. I want to keep these around 30 minutes, just a little bit easier for you, everyone else. Let's go to California. What do they do in California? Now, this was actually established by one father. And actually, let me get you this name. But this father was actually the father that basically established. So we have. I bypassed a lot of my notes to tell you that. Okay, so going into California, the first European explorer expedition was Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo. So he led the first expedition along the California coast, basically what we see here. Now, he was there not to establish a settlement, but to explore this area. Not to enslave, not to take over, conquer. No, it was to find more information about this area. And then he went back. So he went through in 1542. Again, after the Aztecs were taken over, and after Cortez had basically solidified Mexico for him and for Spain. Then you have Francis Drake. Oh, sorry, Sir Francis Drake. Yes, sorry. Sir Francis Drake came in and explored the coast of California, all the way up north. Again, no claims to land, no settlements at this point. So It was just to explore. One went by land, one went by sea. Again, within 37 years of each other. And again, why is that? It's because one, it takes money. Two, it takes supplies. Three, it takes ships. At this point, not many ships had actually gone all the way around. Sir Francis Drake had actually gone all the way around and then circumnavigated the globe. Next one, again, that was 1579. 1602, Sebastian Vizcaino, so Sebastian, let's call him Sebastian, explored the coast of California on the behalf of Florida. Again, he was mapping out this area all the way up to the Monterey Bay. So Monterey Bay, if I remember correctly, is somewhere up here. Oh yeah, Monterey Bay. There we go. Hey, I was right. There. Okay, so, but again, not establishing a settlement. Wow. All this time, all this money, everything, and no settlements. But then, it takes them another 167 years. 167 years. This is Gaspar de Portilla says, I'm going to go up and I'm going to finally establish a place. I'm going to do this. Nobody else has done it. I'm going to do it. And so he goes up from Mexico to Alta California, which is basically Upper California. I think I have a picture of this. Or maybe I don't. Oh, actually I do. It's, yes, right here. So New California. Oh, no, that's not a good picture of it. Let's see. Yeah, Alta California. It's basically the same. Alta California, he comes up here and he explores this area. So what does he do? He is there to establish the first Spanish presence and to stop the Russians from encroaching into their area. Again, no fully established settlements at this time. And actually, I need to double check that that is right. Let's see. I'm going to Google this one. It's going to say first established Spanish colony settlement. Let's try calling it settlement in California. That would be, yes, I was right. Okay, 1769. So he goes up and he actually finds, he creates a mission, which is the mission San Diego de Alcala. I'll let you stew over that. Where do you think he actually found? Oh, yeah, San Diego. So let's go back over here. Okay, so he finds San Diego. Where is San Diego on this map? Okay, they do not actually have. Oh, sorry, it's way down here. San Diego, 1769. But at this point, he's bringing others. So it's not just this one. So 1769, Mission San Diego was established. This is the father that I was talking about. Father Junipero Serra. So Father Serra came in and helped establish San Diego. But that did not stop the father there. He continued to move up, establishing about 20 different missions all throughout this route. And this route is called the King's Highway. Again, the Spanish king. So this King's Highway is established. Now, remember, Gaspar found San Diego in 1769. He then goes up to Monterey and creates another mission. And so two missions. It's Sant Carlos. Let's see if we can find it. Sant Carlos. That one I cannot find. Okay. So he establishes another mission up near Monterey Bay. So in here in Monterey Bay, he is actually able to establish another mission. This is mission. Oh, this is why, because it's not called San Carlo. Okay. So no, it is. But de Carmelo. Sorry. It's Mission San Carlos Morillo de Carmelo, which would be Carmel. California, it's still there. Carmel. Okay. So he then establishes a few more, making his way up north, making his way between it, there is a lot of missions established. Now, when was San Francisco established? You're going to find this interesting. When was San Francisco established? Thing is, you'll never forget this again. If you can remember one date, you're never going to forget this ever again. When was San Francisco established? 1776. What happened on the year 1776? Oh yeah, that's right. The British were attacking. The British were attacking the American colonists. Lexington, Concord, Boston, all that. The American Revolution had just begun. So now you will never forget that one. You might forget this one, but it's 5 years later is when they found Los Angeles. So this area right here with these missions, multiple missions at this point. And so they are going through, and so Los Angeles is actually settled with 44 different settlers, and I'm going way over time. Not way over time, but over time than I want it to be. So I'm going to end this here. There is so much more. Let's make sure I don't have any more pictures to show you. Okay, and this was basically the establishment. Basically, around 1810, Spain owned most of this. Now, interesting enough, Spain, it's Spanish Louisiana, and the Louisiana Purchase. We purchased the Louisiana Purchase from the French. So that is another story, which we will talk about later on. But just, this was basically considered by the Spanish to be owned and controlled by them. And I'm going to leave you there. I appreciate you being with me on this great Monday as we talk about colonial America. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the Portuguese side. Again, the other brother who likes to wrestle with his older brother. I guess I will say older brother. Older brother would be Spain because they were the first ones to come over here. And then Portuguese. The Portuguese were going to come here, and they're going to continue to butt heads all this time. But again, because of what the Pope did, most of that butting heads is going to stop at that point, and they're all going to go their own ways until one thing happens. And we're going to get there tomorrow. Wednesday. So thanks so much for joining me. Can't wait to talk to you again Wednesday on this. But tomorrow we're going to be going through more Egyptian history. So stay tuned for that as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time. Take care. Bye. If you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye. If you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye.